Hello, everyone. Welcome once again to our as of yet unnamed podcast. You're going to notice the absence of Gary Silman. Gary's under the weather. He's apparently allergic to dealers that aren't compliant and transparent when it comes to F&I, and he broke out in hives or something, whatever it is. He deferred, so we reached out through the auspices of Mr. Larkin, the guy with the fancy hat, and we grabbed two of our best buddies who also bring tremendous value to the industry. Tom Klein, man, if you're not working with Tom Klein, you better really, really keep your fingers and toes crossed, because the insurance you think is going to cover you, boy, are you in for a rude surprise. And there's probably not a better IT guy out there than Jeff Shearer, and I don't mean any disrespect to anyone else, but he combines the effects and affectations of a nerd, but he's the warmest, nicest guy you'll ever meet, and his son's nicer than he is. So without further ado, and of course, Michael Larkin is behind the controls. He's like the Wizard of Oz behind the curtain. That's sad, Klein, because that makes you Toto, okay?
Wolf.
So we've got Tom Klein of the famed Tuck the Octopus and Jeff Shearer. Which one of you fine gentlemen would like to go first and tell us the fabulous things you're doing and all the things you can do to improve our community and our dealers and everybody?
Go ahead, Jeff. You start.
I'll defer to. Well, I was going to hand you the ball, Mr.
Did I mention how polite these two guys are? Mike, we did better last week when they had the rude guys on. They jumped right in, remember?
Yeah, they were talking over each other and all that kind of stuff, interrupting each other and saying, wait.
That'll happen post-production, Larry.
Yeah.
We'll just make
anyone bold enough to have a book called Tuck the Octopus should go first. Mr. Klein.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me on the show. What would you like me to talk about? What I'm working on now, or what's happening in the industry?
Well, listen, let me throw this at you. I have a good elevator pitch. When I met people at NADA, if I'm stuck in an elevator for 8 seconds, that's all I need. I tell them, listen, it's really simple. My sales training is really good and really effective and fun, and I can find any kind of personnel, from sales to service to a controller to a lot porter to a body tech. Let's hear yours and Jeff's elevator pitch, because you're both really good at paring down to the elemental facts, what it is you do. Because I mentioned the insurance thing because I think you'll agree, and then I'll let you talk, obviously, that most people are sitting on a keg of dynamite and don't realize it. Either they're avoiding the truth, or they're just not aware of how the exponential growth is when you hit liability and you start getting sued by the federal government, the local government, or whatever else. So I'm assuming, Tom, you can tell us exactly what you do to help dealers protect themselves and move forward and, of course, be more compliant. It's a dealer right now probably wanted to talk to you, Tom. I'll tell him you'll call him back.
So you guys know that feeling when you get up in the morning and you're anxious and you're nervous, but you're not sure what exactly you're anxious about or nervous about, and it's an uncomfortable feeling because you run a business? Well, what I do is I make that anxiety de minimis, and I make you feel better about your operation, because I'm going to go into the operation and make sure everything is running smoothly. And in the case of a problem, you're going to have the right insurance to handle the problem. So tuck the octopus is an analogy that running a dealership is like trying to tuck an octopus into bed, but the tentacles keep flopping all over the place, right? That's what it feels like to run a dealership. So my job is to tuck those tentacles in and make sure everything runs smoothly and that you feel good. And as one dealer said to me unsolicited, he said, "You help me sleep better at night."
And is it fair to assume, Tom, for anybody watching, I've known Tom a long time, and he's extremely effective and really an honorable guy. Is it fair to assume that most of these dealers are woefully underinsured only because they're looking at what's in front of them, but what could potentially be a pitfall or how to mitigate the liability that could come their way?
Yeah. What I find in talking to dealers is that nobody's really ever explained their insurance to them. All they know is they get this guy 4 days before their renewal who runs in and says, "We only have a 20% increase this year." And the
Sounds
dealer,
great.
Yeah, and the dealer doesn't have any room to maneuver, doesn't have time to maneuver, and basically throws the guy out of his office and says, get the hell out and go ahead and sign it up and get out of here. And they never go through any of the pieces of the policy that are so important. And I'll give you one quick example. So most dealers I run into have about $5 million of umbrella liability insurance. And I go through this math equation with them, and I say, look, let's total your land and building, your used cars, your parts inventory, and your blue sky. And how much is that? And most dealers, if they have a single point dealership, will say it's 20 to 30 million, something in that range, depending on whether it's a metro store or country store. And then I say, okay, you have $5 million of liability insurance. Let me explain what that means. That means if your lot attendant goes out, gets drunk, and hits a school bus full of kids, that you only have $5 million to pay those claims. And everything between $5 million and $30 million, you are self-insuring. So that's going to come out of your pocket if you have a problem, because the plaintiff lawyers are not going to accept $5 million, especially if somebody is injured for life or is killed. And when dealers say, well, that never happens, I say to them, it happened 4 times while I was a dealer. So you can't tell me it doesn't happen because I've been through it.
You weren't the drunk lot guy, though. I just want to make sure we're very clear and transparent on the show.
Not in this scenario. And so once you say that to them, they're like, oh, my God, I had no idea. Nobody's ever explained it like that.
Wait, hey, Tom, just a weird thought. Not that any of my thoughts aren't weird. I sold a lot of cars, and I leased a lot of cars. And I can't tell you how many times, if you woke me up in the middle of the night, I could have told you, oh, it's a lease. We need a minimum of 100, 350,000.
Right.
So it's not like we don't understand limits of liability and what's necessary. But when you consider that we're the ultimate litigation magnets, they know how deep our pockets are. And do we all agree, as nice as the people are in this industry, and a lot of them aren't, but most of them are, we never win in court. They're dressed up like nuns, and we're like the evil vampires.
100% of the time. I've been to court hundreds of times. You can't expect to win. You just can't.
Just to make sure I'm getting it, because Mike writes all this down. You hang around with drunk lot porters that run into buses. Okay, you've been to court yourself hundreds of times, and your first marriage ended because you tried to tuck an octopus. Do I have all that right? Mike, make sure I can't wait to see ChatGPT do this one.
It's for the 80-20, that's pretty close. We'll just call it even.
Yeah. All right, so listen, just to sum up, I got a lot of friends that are dealers. And protect yourself. This is the worst thing on earth to have an oops with, because if your blue sky and everything totaled up is 30 million and you got to pay the difference between the 5 and the 30, unless you're a billionaire, I suspect you're out of business. And maybe out of business and they gave you 10 million above that, so you went from being prosperous and moneyed up to really being in trouble. So if anybody needs Tom Klein, he's an easy guy to reach. He's a gentleman. He does nothing but bring value. Mr. Shearer, I've known Jeff for a while. I don't know anybody that doesn't like or respect the guy. He brings integrity into everything. And on top of that, when he explains IT, I actually understand it. And anybody that knows my limited capacity to think or understand it, it's a pretty nice tribute to him. So, Mr. Shearer?
Well, I appreciate those accolades. I'll try to live up to that. My business is very much focused around communication. And
hold on. Are you involved with any sea creatures? Because that seemed to spike a lot of interest. I'm just, jellyfish, squid, whatever.
They ain't over yet. So, but
you didn't know it was going to have an aquatic theme the whole time, did you, Larkin? Go ahead.
Around the core of what we do is we help identify and seal cracks in the dealer's communication processes, starting with the phone. We kind of operate under the premise that the next best lead, besides the guy standing in front of you, is your phone, right? And nobody thinks about the phone. They think about it as an expense, at a dealership, or I have other clients outside of automotive as well, but nobody thinks about it till it doesn't work. And now it's a huge problem. Well, we we've got technology that is amazing. So it not only will make sure the phones ring 100% of the time, and even if somebody mows the phone pole down the street and takes out the internet lines, we can instantly, our system will divert to cell phones at the store. So you're not out of business. So there's a lot of things we do, starting with technology. And a few questions whenever I'm onboarding a client or interviewing a new prospect is I say, how many calls are you getting a day? Well, I don't know, but my IT guy could probably tell us that. Okay, great. More importantly, how many calls are you missing every day? And well, what do you mean, Jeff? Well, a missed call is somebody that dials your dealership, the phone rings 3 times, 4 times, and they get anxious because consumers, thanks to Amazon largely, want instant gratification, and they get impatient. So they hang up after the 3rd ring, 4th ring. Well, we track that, and we know, and we serve that information because we're collecting where that caller came from, along with his phone number, and sending that immediate alert out to the dealership. Not earth-breaking science there. They don't put on their customer hat.
Michael, note that we just moved on land. We went from aquatic creatures to dogs.
So the first thing we do is we use technology to fill those cracks in the bucket. Every business, no matter what the vertical is, has that same issue. Okay, let's make sure you're getting 100% of your calls. Okay, now, and that's the first leg on the stool. The second leg is what happens after that call gets answered. Okay, are we consistent? Is the customer getting where they need to go? And the example I use all the time, and my son is a technician at AutoNation Toyota, and so I grill him daily when when I talk to him about their processes and stuff too, because all of us know we've taken our car into a dealership for service. Well, try to call that service department after 9 a.m. You're not going to get a hold of the service writer because they're out running around in the shop, as they should be, right? But one of the premises we have after that phone does get connected / answered is to do away with voicemail. Okay, well, how do we do that? Because that's the third question. How many voicemails are you getting every day? And again, the GM will say, well, gee, I don't know, but we could find out. And are you sure all those people are getting called back, right? So it's kind of loaded questions that I already know the answers to. But one of the new technologies that we've are really getting ready to release is to have highly trained and highly specific voice AI agents, which answer those calls which have normally gone to voicemail.
Hold on, I got to interrupt you. For anybody that's watching this, Jeff and I are personal friends. I already stated that. But he said, Larry, do me a favor. I'm gonna let you dial into one of these calls. It was so much closer to a human being and so much more realistic than talking to what we perceive, because I don't feel any differently, and I don't think my friend Mr. Klein or Shearer or Larkin will mind me speaking for them. As soon as I hear it's a robot, that canned, hi, done. This actually sounded like a real person, and a real person that could think on its feet a little bit. So I had to let them know that, because for all they know, you're saying the same thing that the other 12 guys that gave you the robot that sounded really robotic and terrible.
Sure.
His people, the voices he's using and the manner he's programmed it, they sound good.
Just by the way, the imitation you did as a robot, Larry, spot on.
And that technology and the voices get better every day, and we are not trying to dupe anybody, to think they're talking to a human. And there's two camps for that. A lot, half the customers say, well, yeah, I want them to think they're talking to a human. But then, halfway into the call, the caller might feel stupid because they figured out. But, we try to be friendly, super friendly. And one of the things, Larry, that you've always challenged me on is that, like, these voice AIs can't have empathy. Well, I'm here to tell you they can, because even in some of the extensive testing we've done, Like one of the callers said, that her father passed away 2 weeks ago. And the agent said, "Oh, I'm so sorry to hear about your father. Sounds like you're looking for a fresh start." And it's amazing how good they are.
By the way, Jeff, that was a call, and I actually answered it. So some of us are paying attention to the fact that the phone is still a good tool to use.
It is a great tool. And to that end, we're not looking to be necessarily the first person, if you will, that answers the phone at a business. We want to back up the humans, because by no means do we ever want to replace the humans. But with these agents, they're able to collect information and at least let the caller try to accomplish what they called for, including making appointments, okay, without talking to a human. And at the very least, we're collecting all of this information. And if you think about this, let's just say there's 10 things that we want to know on every inbound call at a car dealership. Okay, we want to know the customer's name. Politely and at the right time, we want their phone number. If we're going to send them something, we can collect their email, whatever these 10 metrics are. Humans don't bat 1,000 every time they step up to the plate. None of us do, okay? But our voice agents do, because they're going to ask those questions. And I'll give you a great example of one we're building for the food business. Friday afternoon, you want to call in and order a pizza. So you call, "Hello, Joe's Pizza, can you hold, please?" Dink. And now you're on hold for 5 minutes, and the guy's banging away. Joe,
Jeff, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I just got a text from Klein saying, "Why couldn't you order calamari?" He's trying to pull.
Hey, I don't want Jeff eating my people. That's not right.
I'll get to
Larkin, I believe I have officially lost control of the show.
Yes, indeed.
So instead of being I'll pick it back up if we get back to seriousness in here, which probably isn't fun, but so
not gonna happen.
We're ready. But so instead of putting somebody on hold, what if Tammy, the trained pizza expert at Joe's Pizza, answered the call, and she says, "Oh, Mr. Feldman, how are you?" Because we recognize your phone number. "Hey, last order you ordered a large pepperoni, extra cheese, no feta, side salad with extra Caesar, maybe go over your order. Would you like to order the same thing?" "Yeah, and can we add whatever, some calamari to it," right? "Oh, fabulous, I'll get that for you." So she's going down the list basically, and she gets to the bottom of your order and she says, "Oh, Mr. Feldman, I noticed that you didn't have any drinks with your order. We have 2-liter sodas for $1.99. Would you like to add some of those?"
I got to add one thing here. Tonight, I'm going to go to a pizza place that I've been going to for 20 years. I'm a creature of habit. I go there every Friday. When my mom was alive, I took her there every Friday. They know me. They know what I want to eat. Remember the Cheers scene? You want to go where everybody knows your name. So if we can with the magic that he provides, if we can not only get our phones answered, but answered by somebody that recognizes you and makes you feel like you're not ignored, nothing's more frustrating, Tom, than you're calling somebody for the 9th time and 9 different people and nobody has connected the dots. I didn't mean to interrupt again, Jeff, but what you and Tom are bringing brings such value that I just want to make sure anybody listening understands, because I've had the benefit of dealing with both you gentlemen and seeing what you do. Continue. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to
interrupt. You're spot on. And again, we're tweaking and improving stuff every day to make it conversational, to make it friendly. Some of the ones we built, and Larry, I don't know if I sent that example to you and Mike, but when the called in to make an appointment at a dealership, to one of our agents, and she says, "What kind of car are we dealing with today?" And have a Batmobile, and she goes, "Ha ha, that's funny. What are you really driving?" So
imagine a robot being acute enough to not. Hey, and here's what's scary now. There's salespeople that aren't that sophisticated.
That's the
that
point.
Don't know how to smile or turn things around.
Well, that's the point I'm getting to. So if there's 10 things, call it 5 or whatever you say in your business that we want to collect on every phone call, the agents, the voice agents, are going to take a swing 100% of the time on those 10 things. Okay? But to get back to the pizza analogy, she'll find out what are the blanks. Oh, you didn't order dessert either. Larry, the manager's got a special on key lime pie for only $1.99 a slice. It's awesome. Would you like to add that, right? So there's so many ways to use it and spin it. And I think, again, the technology it's amazing. Once again, automotive is near and dear to me, because I started and cut my teeth back with AutoNation back in the day. But, all these other verticals and ways to use that, and make it simple. And, the manager of Joe's Pizza isn't in business because he's a good marketer. He makes damn good pizza, right? So let's take that off him, but these are people that are calling in. And when, the typical thing now, unless you're Domino's or Pizza Hut, and you have a very sophisticated system, they're not keeping track of what you ordered from Joe's. Now they know Mr. Feldman orders the same thing every time, but, the bot can collect all that info. And I say bot very friendly because that's what I refer to them as. That's what they are. But now, we have the ability to know what Mike Larkin ordered, extra wings or extra hot sauce with his wings last week. And with our system, the manager can go in and type in wings and see all the orders that they took for the last 2 weeks on wings. And I want to send a coupon out at 2:00 on a Friday to those people. So we're just repurposing and making use of the data that's coming into your business today. And then lastly, we can bubble up to the top. I have a client that's in the tire and auto repair. I send him a report at 4:30 every day on the calls that came in where the customer's need wasn't satisfied. Didn't make an appointment, weren't able to get him in, couldn't answer his question. So he gets a list of the 10 people that called and they weren't able to get their issue resolved for today. Today, not a morning report tomorrow morning when the guy's already gone down the street. But let's take action before the close of business on, again, those cracks in the bucket that happen in every business. So,
Jeff, I love that, and that the follow-up is one of the most for any business. But for going back to Tom and his business, when he gets a call and gets that information, it's got to be protected. Tom, going back to you and your pain points, or the dealer's pain points, what do you think, from your experience, is the number one thing in compliance? I mean, there's so many compliant, it's like the octopus and the flapping, and they're not going to get into bed. But if you were to prioritize them, what would be the first on the list? Obviously, for the owner of the business, they got to focus on what's the most important or the highest I can be fined for that pain point that I'm not addressing. Can you kind of explain that? Because it dovetails right into what Jeff's kind of technology is, and it's going right into the dealership. They've got to protect their stuff.
Right. So I would say, we've all been reading the news, and the federal government is in a state of flux at the moment, and some dealers feel that with the Republicans in office that they can relax their compliance efforts because there isn't going to be any enforcement. I've heard this from various dealers, and I'm going to proffer to you that that's incorrect, and it's incorrect for two reasons. Number one is the federal government has nothing to do with the state attorneys general. The state attorneys general are politically motivated. I've heard some people say that AG stands for almost governor, and in the case of Massachusetts, for example, Maura Healey was the AG and is now the governor. So I mean, there's a real world example up near you, Mike.
Yep.
But I'm going to tell you that these state attorneys general can enforce the laws where the federal government stops enforcing. If that happens, that remains to be seen, and only time will tell on that issue. So I said there's two reasons. the state AGs is number one. And the second thing is with regulations and compliance, they're all backward-looking paradigms. And what I mean by backward-looking is in 4 years, if the Democrats get back in and you haven't been doing the right things, and they put all the the pieces back in place, those people can now go back, look at what you've been doing as a business, if you've been doing anything deceptive or whether intentionally or not intentionally. Those regulatory agencies at that point can look back and hold the businesses accountable. So I would say the number one thing right now in today's political environment is don't be fooled by the fact that the current administration is, trying to get rid of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. And as of this moment, the FTC is untouched, but of the many other federal agencies that are getting defunded or closed or whatever. So right now, today, I would say that's the number one threat.
Tom, keep in mind what you just said has a subtext too. In a lot of these states, you're going to see the money that comes from the Fed shrunk. Well, going after dealers is as great of a money grab as it is when they sit down with the state police and say, Gesundheit, sneaks on the truth, we're a little light on income. Let's get some traffic tickets in here. We'll waive the points. So they may even be more necessary because as the money shifts one way or the other, they still need the funds to procure to run their government. And if they do cut down on some of the funds or restrict, all it's going to make them is looking. And unfortunately, as much as I love this business and the people in it, we are the ultimate target. We always have been and we always will be. Even though look how vital we are to the industry. Right. Almost 20,000 new car dealers. I don't know how many used car dealers, but when you add in the gas stations, the advanced auto parts, the Pep Boys, the Penn Jerseys, imagine if we melted down like the housing market did. I don't think the country would survive that.
Remember, nature abhors a vacuum, right? And so there's also consumer groups that will step up, and there are plaintiff lawyers who are going to step up too, right?
But lawyers generally tend to be fair. Except for days of the week that have the word day in them. I mean,
That's it.
All right, listen, guys, we don't want to run too long. We like to keep it concise. As Mike suspected, and thank you, Mike, for reaching out. Guys, we're terrific. Just to be concise, you may not be as protected as you think you are, and let's not have an oops. And you can't never go wrong with Tom Klein. He's honorable. He's honest. He won't push you to spend $1 you don't need to, but he'll almost twist your arm to spend the money you do need to keep your business safe. And if you don't think it's a worthwhile endeavor to get more business in and track it better, then don't bother calling Jeff Shearer. But if you're sensible enough to realize that you're not using your phone and your personnel as effectively, you'd be foolish not to reach out to him. And as always, if you're looking for an IT guy that's just sharp as a tack, it's really hard to beat Michael Larkin. He's one of the most sincere guys you'll ever meet. And when you get past the nerd speak, just a really good guy. And as far as me, hey, as you can see, I need a lot of funds to keep my meds up. So, hire me here and there, and we'll keep rolling.
We're going to start a GoFundMe page for you, Larry.
That would be wonderful. I can see an octopus now trying to hit the pay button, but the tentacles keep getting in the way. Guys, have a fabulous, fabulous day. Have a great weekend. It was such a pleasure having you guys on, and Mr. Larkin, as usual. Thanks for setting up. Our buddy, Gary Silman, please get better quick. I'm sure he'll be up and running, and we'll see all you folks next Friday. Gentlemen, stay healthy.
Appreciate you guys.
Get well soon, Gary. Thank you, gentlemen.